Welcome to the McNees Government Relations Podcast Series. In this video podcast, Attorney Kathleen Bruder explains the requirements of the Pennsylvania School Safety Legislation, Act 44 of 2018. Ms. Bruder practices in the Government Relations, Labor and Employment, and Public Sector Practice groups at McNees.
During the Pennsylvania 2018 to 2019 budget negotiations and as part of the final budget package, Pennsylvania's governor and its State House and Senate passed school safety legislation in response to the many school shootings in the country. This legislation, known as Act 44 of 2018, mandates a number of actions and established a School Safety and Security Committee within the Pennsylvania Commission on Crime and Delinquency. They will develop criteria to assess school safety, establish a registry for vendors who can conduct the assessments, and manage a state-administered program to distribute $60 million in school safety grants. 3 mandatory areas of assessment that must be included in the criteria are for physical assessments, policy and training assessments, and student assistant and behavioral health assessments. Act 44 also mandates the appointment of school security coordinators, mandatory school safety training for school entity employees, and establish standards for school police and resource officers, as well as establish the Safe to Say program in the Office of the Attorney General. Since this legislation passed in June, the Commonwealth has acted quickly, and on September 7, 2018, they announced the availability of $52.5 million for the School Safety and Security Grant Program. The committee expects to award $12.5 million for Part A of the application process for these grants, and $40 million in additional funding will be released to the Part B competitive applications, that is for all eligible school entities. There is also up to $7.5 million that will be set aside for programs designed to reduce community violence. These funds will be released under a separate funding announcement entitled Community Violence Program Grants. Municipalities, institutions of higher education, community-based organizations, and other entities approved by the committee are potentially eligible for this funding if they undertake anti-violence programs. Significant in these recent announcements by the committee is that the first round of applications for the School Safety and Security Grant funding are due by October 12, 2018, and must be filed through PCCD's e-grant system. In its recent announcement, the committee recommends interested entities register with PCCD's e-grant system as soon as possible. Because of this short window of time to apply, interested school entities should begin their application process as soon as possible. The Act 44 of 2018 funding is limited to eligible school entities supporting the activities listed in the Act, such as safety and security assessments, conflict resolutions, training, counseling services, and many other purposes as specified. As stated earlier, the funding announcement has 2 parts. Part A, for meritorious application, is for school districts making a meritorious application to receive the minimum grant allocation of $25,000. And Part B, the competitive application, is for all eligible school entities. This includes intermediate units, charter schools, private residential rehabilitative institutions, area VOTAC schools, and school districts seeking additional funding beyond their meritorious application. Each school entity may submit 1 application annually, and school entities will be allowed to supplement existing spending on school safety and security. Also, it should be noted, this funding is separate and apart from funding available with the Office of Safe Schools in the Department of Education. Most school entities are very interested in securing this funding and working with professional third parties with substantive experience in school security assessments and in the other areas targeted by this legislation. Because the Commission on Crime and Delinquency and the committee are tasked with being compliant with specific deadlines that are fast approaching, it is expected there will be frequent and regular updates from the committee about their progress. At this time, we can provide deadlines for implementation of the Act's requirements. Beginning with September 30th of this year, the committee will establish the school safety assessment criteria. October 12, 2018 is the deadline for applications for both Part A and Part B monies. It is expected that each school district will receive $25,000 in grant dollars under the Part A. October 31st is the deadline for when the committee is expected to establish registration requirements for school safety assessors. After October 31st of this year, the committee is expected to receive and approve applications for the registration of school safety assessors. And also on October 31st of this year, it is expected the committee will develop and distribute a school safety survey for all schools. November 30th is the date when the school entities are expected to return their safety surveys to the committee for the committee's review. January 31st of 2019 is the date set forth in the Act for when the committee will review the surveys and existing school safety plans. March 31st of 2019 is when it is expected that the state police will expand their Risk Vulnerability Assessment Training Unit that is currently working with school districts and other entities. They will significantly increase the number of personnel in that unit because of this funding. We at McNees will continue to monitor developments regarding Act 44 and news from the committee. Should you have any questions, please contact us using the information on the following screen. Thank you.